So, as promised, we have one of the members of the Bengals Ring of Honor. I'm absolutely delighted, slightly flabbergasted, and incredibly privileged to talk to one of the original Cincinnati Bengals, Bob Trumpy. Bob, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. I was just in preparation for this thinking that come this July 1st of 2021,
Hmm.
53 years ago, I landed in Cincinnati from Southern California to start, hopefully, my professional football career. 53 years ago.
Wow, that's
So it's
incredible.
rather remarkable that it's been 53 years. It just struck me as, what, 53 years? My goodness.
Well, let's
And
start with that.
please ask me about the
Well, I was
black
going
eye.
to
What do you
say, I
think
mean, it's
happened?
53 years and you look really well. Apart from you've got an absolutely stonking black eye. What is going on? I mean, what happened, Bob?
What do you think?
I mean,
I've been married to the same woman for 54 years. We can
okay,
eliminate her.
yeah, that's not a problem. We're not going to go down the
Yeah,
domestic
okay.
abuse
I
route. No,
didn't
that's fine.
fall. I didn't trip. I don't hang out in bars. I don't drink. So, you know, this all happened from a dental procedure to fix this. Hang on.
Okay, well, Bob's just taken out half of his teeth now. So you've got some new teeth there. Did they not realize that a dentist is supposed to work on your mouth, not your eye?
Yeah, well, the dentist who I've gone to for years apparently used a jackhammer that I was unaware of.
Right.
And I'm on blood thinner at 76.
Oh, okay.
So it produced a lot of bruising, but no pain, no discomfort. I'm past the vanity part of my life. I don't care what I look like.
Yeah.
I'm upright, and I celebrate that every day. So I'm fine.
Yeah, no, you look fighting fit there. I was going to say maybe you thought it was 53 years. You'd go out in the yard and start catching some passes again in celebration. Maybe that's.
Well, I've got three grandsons. One of them is the technical expert for this setup for me. But no, it was all because of blood thinner and a dentist trying to put a couple of implants that for years I've suffered a problem with, and I'm fine.
Good.
So what can I do for you?
Go on.
How did you become a Cincinnati Bengals fan living in the UK? You have nothing else in life to do except celebrate American football?
Well, okay, here's the short version because I've told this story many times to people. So I started a new high school and some of the guys were into the NFL and I'd seen it because we got Chicago won the Super Bowl in '85.
Yeah,
and William Perry was a massive deal over here. He was like on the, the refrigerator. It was on the back pages, the front pages. I don't know why, but he caught fire over here. So everyone
he scored in that Super Bowl. Walter Payton didn't.
Yeah, I know, which is the craziest thing, right?
Yes.
So everyone was aware of American football, as we like to call it over here, and so I met these new friends at my new high school, and they were all kind of Dolphins fans and Raiders fans and 49ers fans because, it was the age of Marino, Montana, all these kind of big guys. And I thought, no, I want my own team to support, right? So I started watching the TV and these highlights shows that I mentioned before we came on. And I saw this blonde-haired quarterback in tiger stripe helmet, throwing the ball downfield. He was doing what I didn't know was called a play action at the time, but he was doing a play action fake, the likes of which even completely bamboozled the cameraman. You know what I mean? You saw Boomer doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Norman Julius assassin. Yes.
So I thought, hold on a minute, this team looks like really good fun. And they've got like these orange tiger helmets. And this could be the team for me. So that was it. And a couple of years later, I was entirely vindicated when they got to the Super Bowl.
Good.
But then the 90s happened and I wasn't so vindicated. But that's another story. So that's
same for us. Same for us.
Yeah, right.
So what do you want to know?
So basically, I mean, let's go back to those 53 years, because you were drafted in the 12th round, right, in 68, and you're selected by the Bengals. What were your thoughts? Were you hoping that, maybe I'll go to one of these storied teams like a Chicago or I don't know, whoever it might be, and I'm getting this kind of brand new team in Cincinnati? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, well, one, I was shocked that I was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals, primarily because I had been in the Navy on active duty in the Navy the previous 180 days. And the draft was in early March. And I was at work collecting bills in Los Angeles, and my wife called me and said, "You just got drafted." And I said, "That's impossible. I just got out of the Navy." She said, No, by this team in the American Football League called the Cincinnati Bengals. And I was flabbergasted. I had no contact, no connection. I'd never worked out for anybody. My personal thought was, since I'm living in Los Angeles, I'm going to try out as a free agent with the Rams. And that was my thought. That obviously all changed. So I'm collecting bills. Again, the draft is in the first part of March. I'm collecting bills, and that's driving around, bothering people for money. And I said, I need a construction job. I was working out of downtown Los Angeles, and I was living in the San Fernando Valley. At that time, that was the busiest freeway in the world. I spent more time in the car going to and from work than I did working. It was that bad. So I get this construction job in the San Fernando Valley, close to where I lived. And it was hard work in hot weather. And I thought, get myself in shape. As I'm driving home one day, I drive by this small, at that time, community college, San Fernando Valley State College. And I notice that there are several guys out there practicing football, throwing it around. And I just I slowed down a little bit, but kept driving. The next day, I thought, well, I'm going to stop, see who these guys are. Maybe I can join them, or they can join me, and I can get in football shape. So I stopped, and I got to walk maybe, I don't know, 70 or 80 yards to get to where they're practicing. And as I approached this group of athletes, I notice on the ground, there's a great big bag with the Green Bay Packers sign on the side. And, what is going on? And I walk up, and I introduce myself, and the guy who was responsible for the practice, and the guy who owned the Green Bay bag, his name was Zeke Bratkowski. And Zeke Bratkowski was Bart Starr's backup. And Bart Starr was the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers of the Lombardi era Green Bay Packers. And that began a 6-day-a-week workout routine with Zeke Bratkowski.
Wow.
And we started every practice with 75 or 80 up downs, because that's what Lombardi started every practice with in Green Bay. And I was one of two receivers, and I don't remember the other kid's name. But Zeke taught me what Green Bay Packers receivers were doing. So I was catching passes from Zeke Bratkowski, and I was Boyd Dowler, I was Max McGee, I was, I think their tight end was Marv Fleming at the time. And I was running the Green Bay Packers offense. And we did that 6 days a week from, I don't know, I'd say the middle of March until the end of June. To say the least, uh, at the end of June, I was in the best shape of my life just because of Zeke Radkowski.
Wow.
And physically, Zeke had used me. Carroll Dale was another receiver for the Green Bay Packers, ran his patterns too. So a couple of days before everything breaks up and everybody's got to go to various camps, Zeke takes me over to the side away from the 7 or 8 other guys as the practice ends, and he says, listen, I want to tell you, you can make our team. I said, what? He said, you can make the Green Bay Packers team. You're faster than they went through this, and you run better than, and you catch the ball better than touchdown. I'm going to tell our scouts that if my name, the name Trumpy, shows up on the waiver wire, give this kid a chance. Well, psychologically, what that did for me was I can't describe. There's no way in the world I can put into words. What? I'm a 12th round draft choice, and this guy's telling me, who plays in the NFL, that I can play for him. They had just won the world championships. What? Are you serious? and the end of June, July 1st, I fly into Cincinnati. Again, physically in great shape, and mentally, the advantage it gave me, it's something I'll never forget, and it's something that I absolutely still struggle to survive. Other than any chance I get, I give Zeke Radkowski, who's now dead, all the credit for psychologically helping me over the biggest barrier, I think, of being a 12th round draft choice of the Cincinnati Bengals. And to consider it even more outrageous, in the 4th round of the same draft, the Cincinnati Bengals drafted a kid who was physically, at the time they announced his name, in the Michigan State Prison. Jess Phillips. He was drafted as a defensive back, played a little defensive back and then a lot of running back for us. They drafted him 8 rounds before they drafted me. And so that tells you what they knew, or what they thought they knew about me. I was a total unknown until I got there. So that's always been my first thought, that my career started like nobody else in the history of leagues, of the National Football League or the American Football League ever started. Excuse me. And then I check into my dorm room. I rode up from the airport in Cincinnati with a black kid named Bill Kendrick. He was a defensive tackle from one of the Southern black colleges. Great kid, great guy. The only guy I knew. And the airport in Cincinnati is probably 20 minutes south of Cincinnati in Kentucky. Wilmington College is 45 miles north of Cincinnati. So we had about an hour and a half bus ride, just the 2 of us and the driver, from the airport up to the training camp that first night. So I check into my room, and there's a body lying in the bed, and the light from the hallway wakes him up. And I said, sorry. And he said, my name's Wally Scott. Bob Trumpy, welcome to training camp. I'm going to hit the sack. I'm tired. How about you? Yeah, fine. We'll talk in the morning. I went to sleep. I wake up. Wally Scott's not there. He went to breakfast. I get up, take a shower, brush my teeth, kind of ask somebody, where do we go? What do we do here? And well, the place where you have breakfast is over there. So it was maybe a 10-minute walk to get to the place where we had breakfast. I go there and I see Wally Scott sitting there, and he's about to finish his breakfast as I'm just starting. I said, where are you from? Arizona State. What position you play? Defensive back. How about you, tight end? I'll see you back at the room. So I finished my breakfast, get the local newspaper, see if there's anything in there about Trumpy showed up. So now we can start. There wasn't such a story. And I leisurely walked back to my room and I opened the door and there was no trace of Wally Scott. Absolutely no trace other than wrinkled sheets. I thought I was in the wrong room. I looked in the closet and all his clothes are gone. Gone. I think, wait, what happened here? He'd already been cut. I saw him at breakfast.
Wow.
And, he was too short. In that first training camp, I had 6 roommates, 6 different roommates. Wally Scott is the only guy that I can remember. They came in for lunch. They ran him in the 40. Some stayed for dinner. Some were gone. It was absolutely extraordinary looking back on it, what that first year was. But that's the way it started for me.
And what a great story. And I think I could probably talk to you all day about different players and stories. But you had an amazing career, Bob. You 68 till 77, you're still the record holder for the amount of yards and yards per catch by a Bengals tight end. But what interests me back then, we keep being told it wasn't a passing league, right? It was, so for our younger listeners, what kind of player were you, and what were tight ends like back in the late 60s and early to mid 70s?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I am credited for being the first tight end that could get down the field, which I could do, but I can't take credit for it. The credit has to be given to Bill Walsh. He was our quarterback's receiver coach, and he recognized I could do things that wide receivers do at the size he thought of a tight end. And prior to me, especially in the NFL, the tight ends were extra guards. There's no other way to look at it. I mean, Green Bay featured the sweep to the tight end side. And their tight ends were Ron Kramer at one time, and then Marv Fleming. Great big guys, 250, 255, the same size as the offensive lineman, and their number one responsibility was block, not catch passes. Well, I could get down the field for 6'6", and I legitimately weighed about 210 pounds, but I held a 10-pound weight in my hand when I first weighed in, so they thought I was 220. But I could get down the field. Bill Walsh recognized that, and then because of the injury to Greg Cook in 1969, he was succeeded by Cook was 6'5", 225, a Greek god standing back there throwing the football, hurt, can't play anymore. He was succeeded by a 5'10" Virgil Carter, who couldn't even see the tight end. And that kind of spawned the so-called West Coast offense with me moving around. And actually, when Walsh came up with the idea, Paul Brown didn't like it. He didn't like it because when in the early years of the Cincinnati Bengals, winning was never talked about. Lining up properly, making sure that the snap count was heard by everybody, no offsides. We didn't do a lot of audibles. We ran the ball a whole bunch. He was more interested in that. And then I don't know how Bill Walsh convinced him, but Bill Walsh did convince Paul Brown that when you move the tight end, it distorts the defense. And we've got Trumpy on a guy who is not out there to cover him. He's out there to tackle him. And that kind of started the West Coast offense. And yes, There was that one year where Eric Crabtree, Chip Myers, and I, the three starting receivers, we have all averaged over 20 yards a catch. That was the year of Greg Cook. And then that went away the next year, and then it became under Walsh. You look at the primary, you look at the secondary, and then you look at the outlet, and that was the basis for the West Coast offense. So, but let me give you one other bit of information. In looking back on that first year, personally, we worked out twice a day. The good thing about Paul Brown's practices, they were only an hour and 15 minutes long. He thought anything past that we were wasting time. Coaches were wasting time. Get off the field after an hour and 15 minutes, twice a day. And we beat the hell out of each other twice a day for an hour and 15 minutes. He's not trying to win a game this weekend. He's trying to build a football team. And Paul, I'm telling you, we beat the hell out of each other twice a day as best we possibly could. In that first year, there were 4 tight ends when camp started, of which 3 were veteran allocation players from other teams and me. And they only kept 2, Ken Hayrock and I. And in that first training camp, again, twice a day, beating the hell out of each other, trying to make an impression on the coaches to, you want to keep me. I don't remember having a scrape, a scratch, a bruise, a pulled muscle, nothing. In all that contact, I don't remember. It's remarkable because the rest of my training camp career, which was 2 months long with 6 preseason games, you were constantly having nicks and cuts and bruises and scratches, and I didn't have to treat anything in 1968, and it just blows me away.
I mean, now you go to the dentist and you get a black eye, so that's remarkable that you didn't get a scratch during those early camps.
Not as, and there were guys all the time. You know, pulled hamstring, they're out for 4 or 5 days, they recover, gone. I didn't experience any of that. And I ate well, I slept well, I made friends, and nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew what it was going to take to make this football team. We were all in the same spot except for the high draft choices. They knew they had it made. The rest of us had to leave an impression, a positive impression, every single day. So about 5 weeks into training camp, almost every evening after our evening meeting, there'd be gatherings of players, rookies primarily, draft choices, myself included, would gather in somebody's room and just shoot the breeze about who's going to make it, who's not, what do you know, what do you don't know, and so on and so forth. And one of the receivers on the team, Warren McVay, said, I know who's making this team in this room for sure. And I was eating a chocolate milkshake, and he said, Trumpy, you're making this team. And I said, how can you make that observation? And he said, you've caught everything that they've thrown at you. You've beaten every defensive back that's lined up against you. Don't kid yourself. You got this team made. Well, that's a terrible thing to tell me. I don't know about anybody else, but to tell me. The next morning, I tell my roommate, after the morning practice, I'm going to ask Paul Brown if I got this team made. My wife was pregnant with our first son, and she was in Southern California, and she'd informed me that in a matter of 3 weeks, she can't travel. So I'm either going to go to Los Angeles and be with her for the birth of my child, or I got to make arrangements to get her here to Cincinnati. And me saying that to my roommate spread throughout the 3rd floor where all the rookies where, oh my God, Trumpy's going to go down and confront Paul Brown. I go down to his office. Outside the office was a sports writer that covered Paul for 40 years. And he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm in a tough situation here. My wife's pregnant, and in 3 weeks she can't travel. I'm either going to make this team get her here, or I'm not making this team. I'm going to Los Angeles." And he said, "Don't do that. Don't confront Paul Brown." And I knocked on the door, and Paul let me in. The first thing I noticed was his room was air conditioned. Mine was not. Anyway, he said, "What can I do for you?" And I said, "Well, I just heard from my wife. She's pregnant with our first child. She can only travel for the next 3 weeks. I'm going to be there for the birth of my first son. If I'm not going to make this team, I'll try out for the Rams. I'm going to Los Angeles. If I am going to make this team, I need to get her on a plane here soon and get her settled at an apartment somewhere in Cincinnati and find a doctor." And Paul had, I'll try to do my Paul Brown imitation. The hairline very similar, but he wore his glasses like this, and his eyebrows.
Yeah.
Kept doing that and kept doing that. And he said, "Well, young man, why don't you call your wife and have her come to Cincinnati?" And I, okay. And I then said to him, "Well, you promised me $1,000 if I made the team. If I'd made the team, that $1,000 would help get her here and help us get an apartment." And he said, "That's exactly what we promised you." He got up, walked to a door, said something to somebody in the background, and came back, sat down in front of me, and he says, "We'll find a doctor for her. This is where you should live. Welcome to the Cincinnati Bengals." And through the door walks his son, Mike Brown, with $1,000 check. Wow. I leave that office, and I don't know why I remember this, but I was wearing a blue shirt that when I walked out of the office from here down was sweat. And I didn't remember sweating in his office, but soaked with sweat. So I walked down the hallway and start up the stairway to the third floor. And as I get to the third floor, I look down the hallway and there's 40 heads sticking out of the door, looking like this. And I finally get down to my room. And again, I can't remember my roommate's name, but I get down to my room and I walk in, and my roommate is sitting on the bed, and he looks at me and he says, "Oh, I see the sweat on your shirt. He must have cut you." I said, "No." "Yeah, he cut you." "No, he didn't." And I pulled out the $1,000 check. I said, "He told me I made the team."
Wow.
It's the story.
Wow.
Now, that's not the way professional football careers generally start. That's the way mine started.
Wow. It's a great story. And I think we should wrap this up in a bit. You've already been very kind with your time, Bob. And I mean, I would have I want to talk to you at some stage in the future about Greg Cook. If listeners are out there, go and hunt down the documentary on Greg Cook that Bob made. It's on YouTube, and it's really moving and fascinating and interesting. I want to talk to you about when Ken Anderson came in, and because the team started to get good, didn't it? And by the mid-70s, you were, the Bengals were a threat in the league. That 75, 76 team particularly was fantastic. I know that was towards the end of your career there, but just to wrap this up, Bob, when Bill Walsh introduced the West Coast offense, or the what was it called, the Ohio Riverboat offense or something, whatever it was called back then.
It was our offense.
Your offense. Did you sense it was something different, something exciting, something was beginning to really build in Cincinnati? No. Okay.
No. It was a complete and totally different style, because in Greg Cook, he was a bomber.
Yeah.
We were going to outrun everybody, and we could. When Walsh used to teach us the offense on the chalkboard, he used to use a line that I'll never forget. And that is, he said, we're never going to concede a play to the defense. That means if that guy's covered, and if that guy's covered, we got a guy here that's always open. He may be behind the line of scrimmage, but we're going to throw it to him, and the defense is going to make a tackle. We are never going to throw the ball away.
Right.
You know, just concede a play to the defense. We are not doing that. And he preached that to our quarterbacks. Primary, secondary, outlet, primary, secondary, outlet. And we had to be at certain spots for the timing of the play to work. And so it was our job as receivers to get to that spot. Nowadays, you have option routes, and the guys kind of juke and jive and all the rest of the stuff. This was timing to a particular spot at the right time, and that's what. So it was very difficult to do, and it was very repetitive in practice, and it was not fun. There was you weren't allowed to ad lib in any way, shape, or form. Get to that spot. The quarterback is looking at you first, him second, him third. Get to that spot, and then when we tied that to the running game that we had, because we had Booby Clark, Essex Johnson, which is a pretty formidable pair of running backs. It brought the defense closer to the line of scrimmage to stop the run. When Ken Anderson got there, and again, primary, secondary, outlet. I see Bill Walsh in the offseason, because we all had offseason jobs, and I worked in downtown Cincinnati. And he said, where do you see this quarterback we got from tiny Augustana College? He's a perfect quarterback. And I'd never heard of Ken Anderson. What are you talking about? From Augustana College? Has there ever been another player from Augustana? Is he like Greg Cook? No. Then don't talk to me about how great a quarterback he is. But Walsh kept raving about Ken Anderson. What I didn't know was that Ken Anderson was quarterback / safety for this Augustana football team. He was the biggest guy on the field most of the time for Augustana. And Walsh was literally building this quarterback into the offense. He was not adjusting the offense to the quarterback. He was building the quarterback to the offense. And then all of a sudden, when we get to training camp and we start seeing Ken Anderson and the discipline and the arm strength and the repetition was easier and easier and easier. And when I got to the spot, if primary wasn't open, bam, the ball was to me secondary. When I was the primary, if I got open, bam, it was there. All of a sudden, it started really working. And then that was, 72 or 73? I think 72. We progressively got better. And all the way up to 75 and 76, we thought we were one of the best teams in the league. Unfortunately, we were the second best team in the division. Pittsburgh owned us.
Yeah,
there's no other way to look at it.
We don't mention that team on this podcast, Bob, unfortunately. Listen, I could genuinely talk to you all day, which would be boring for you, but fantastic for me. Listen, you're one of the best ever Bengals, so congratulations on an incredible career. I haven't touched on nearly any of the subjects that I want to talk about, but it was great to listen to tell your amazing stories.
We can do it again.
And
I've got more.
Okay. But seriously, congratulations on the Ring of Honor inclusion. I mean, you're one of the shoo-ins, I think. So hopefully you'll get in sooner rather than later. But Bob, listen, thank you so much for the time.
Nice to have met you. I appreciate you guys over there. If there's one
It's
or a
not just
hundred.
me. It's not just me. Believe it. There are hundreds of Bengals fans.
Yes,
at the moment,
yes,
so.
we appreciate your support. The team needs it.